doesn't stop right here. Karibu sana.
You know, now this gentlemen are here. We have to
have a spirited debate.
That's why we wake up in the morning.
Fantastic stuff. As always, we like your views on the news as well. Keep your tweets coming in at K24 TV. Bob Wino from Kisumu saying he's loving the show right there. Genius Blonde saying, I can't wait for the news review to kick off. Cedric Shisumu saying, watching you live from Hayega in Kakamega County, doing a great job. Pass my greetings to the bullfighter.
Hey, Uriomno.
Yes. Alex Chicks Wanjohi also tuned in. Meshek at Kelvin as well saying, can't wait to hear the analysis that your panel will bring. Let those tweets keep on coming in, of course, at K24 TV. We'll now move on to the front page of the Daily Nation. Front page talking about the Cohen murder. Body is mine to bury, says the widow ahead of postmortem examination. Sarah Werimo Cohen notifies mortuary that as the widow, she should be given the body for the last rites. The story we need to talk about as well also on the front page is a Ugali crisis that is looming, seemingly, as maize harvests drop. Acreage farmers planted the crop on only 1.5 million hectares, down from 2.2 million hectares last year, citing increased costs of farm inputs and poor prices for their produce. Food security has been a thing that we've been talking about for quite a while. It was in the Jubilee Manifesto, it was part of the Big Four. But is it the political goodwill you don't have, Honorable Midio? Where do we stand? Because we talk about it every year. We now even have politics of maize. Because anytime we talk about maize, most people are saying, which scandal is it this time round? Yet the people are still starving. We don't have enough in our granaries.
Well, you said the talk has been in the air for a long time.
Yes.
It is just talk. This country has no proper policy on agriculture. I have said before that what if the money stolen in Kunana Gulalu would have been used to properly establish a fertilizer factory somewhere around Eldoret? What if? What if we had a policy where farmers were shielded against maize from the porous borders of Uganda? What if we said we are growing maize in the western part of Kenya where it grows properly, and the government cared about the farmer? You know, early this year, what happened? We were treated to a very bizarre argument. In fact, the people that Halwale has joined, they treated us to a very interesting thing. They said the granaries were full, but people were dying. So we said, if granaries are full and people are dying, then there is this case which is now going mysterious about somebody being paid 1.5 billion shillings upfront to import maize. Where did the maize go?
Right.
Has the money been refunded? You know, Jeff, my take is that we can do better, and we can never get better from the Jubilee government. How I wish we could have continued the Kibaki footsteps. The man just understood things. He understood the economy. you know. How I wish it was possible to just copy.
Dr. Lalo, chime in on this as well, because as you can hear, you're saying it doesn't seem like the light at the end of the tunnel seems like it's an oncoming train at this particular point in time. We have the Jubilee Manifesto. I think that even promised 57 dam projects, expand food production, yet here we are still talking about the same scenario going round and round. We still don't even have enough maize to feed the country.
Yes, I agree with them on Kibaki. Kibaki continues to be more and more admirable.
Right.
As we move into the new governments. We hope the next government will do much better than the current one. But yet, I think the important thing that we want to speak to is simple things that can address long-term solutions. Simple things like telling Kenyans that you cannot all be lawyers. the owners of ugali. You could also eat other things, you know. Leave ugali for Luyas, you know. Taking away our food. Why are Kikuyu eating ugali? You guys should learn it. Simple thing.
We need the maize as well.
Yeah.
Still need the maize.
But less maize. A simple thing like that. A simple thing like the land tenure policy. You see, with the continuous subdivision of land so that brothers can have a piece of the father's land, it has made large-scale farming impossible. And you cannot make agriculture profitable when you are doing it on small-scale basis. So we have to address land tenure policy. Places like Kakamega, which used to produce a lot of maize, but because of that subdivision of land, homes cannot produce even food for subsistence. We need to change that policy, pull people into towns, put up flats on korofas, flats, schools in central places, and leave the land for farming. The other thing is, for example, in Bungoma, which is traditionally a maize growing area, and Kakamega, and the outcast of Trans Nzoia now, sugarcane farming is killing maize farming because sugarcane farming is slightly more profitable than maize farming. So what has happened is that now new sugar factories like West Kenya, Butali Sugar Company have now gone further into areas that were producing maize. They are now producing cane. So we are not producing enough maize for that reason.
And even as we talk about the sugar as well, some people saying even the sugar belt, as it used to be called, is really on its knees.
It is. So I come from there. We are suffering real bad. In fact, in the earlier days, I used to look smarter because of what I used to make from cane. But now we don't make much. So these are simple but important long-term issues. The issue raised by Honorable Jacoya Medigo, fertilizer, the cost of fertilizer. Fertilizer is expensive because of the policy we have on it. I recall when Deputy President William Ruto became the Minister for Agriculture, we were able to access agriculture fairly cheaply. He's still there. I don't know why they can't ask him, or I don't know why he's quiet. He's not telling his own government that this is what I did in the ministry for fertilizer to be practiced. If he's keeping quiet like that, it could be that he's sabotaging his own government.
Gabriel Mudhama, let me on this as well, because from where you stand, some farmers in Washington talking about the fact that they really like the government to subsidize when it comes to inputs because it's really expensive, and that's why they're doing less and less acreage of maize because it doesn't make business sense as a farmer.
In fact, therein lies your answer, and it's not only in areas where maize has been grown in large scale, but also I've visited so many places where maize, used to be grown in small patches, like even in Central. They've moved away from planting maize, and what are they doing? You'll find them doing French beans. So the ugali crisis is actually real, and it's going to continue for the longest. You remember, we still had the same crisis even during the Moi era, where you had subsidized the white maize with it was yellow maize as we read it. But everybody has dealt, any leader who has come, they've dealt with this crisis, kind of differently. But the maize footprint, anybody will tell you, is actually shrinking in this country. And I expect it to, because people are now moving to what they consider more profitable crops. So therein
lies the problem.
Because many people are eating ugali, and yet the maize footprint is shrinking because farmers are finding alternatives, crops that are more profitable than maize. Now, what I had expected, and I wouldn't call it a crisis much, because you have to ask yourself, where does it become an issue? At what point does it become an issue? One, is it during, or is it at the farmer level? Or is it at the miller level? Or is it at the supermarket level? Or is it that somebody cannot afford to buy that unga and feed their family? So all those multi-tiered levels, you must ask, where does the problem come in? If you're talking about not having maize in the granaries, I've always found it to be a little bit skewed when we allow millers really to run with this whole program. I'd have expected for us to know, and this is again good planning, and also like Daktari and Senior have said, it's about policy, it's good land usage, getting the right acreage. But when we have a deficit, who really is supposed to bring in the maize? Because this is where you have people creating a fake environment and saying maize is not there. So who should be running with this? Right. And this is where I would have expected the government to actually put the floodlights in to ascertain when we have a deficit, which we will always do, same way we have on sugar, who brings in the maize, all right? That, I believe, honestly, is where we can solve this puzzle.
Akina, as Watchdog is concerned, Honorable Duo, even as we move to the next story, but as far as the Big Four is concerned and food security, do you think that this will be achievable by the time President Uhuru leaves office? That will be food secure in terms of that one pillar in his Big Four?
I said it was cheap talk. By the way, if you ask me what are the Big Four, I don't know. Because if you are talking about housing, if you go here to Madari, did you know Madari has only 2 public schools with the millions of people living there? So you can't tell me you can build houses, you know, things that private sector should do, government should run away from. In fact, Ronald Reagan once said that government can only do one thing. There's nothing that they know how to do other than one thing of messing whatever they try to do up. So this government is trying to do things Ronald Reagan told us never to try many, many years ago. Government must leave private sector to thrive. Government, think about, this thing is big, it's part of a bigger problem. Government must allow a capitalistic state like Kenya, very capitalistic, leave private sector to do things private sector can do more, but deal with policy. Deal with policy. You can't tell me I'm demolishing things in Kisumu and then I'm going to borrow money to build houses. Houses are not development. Human capital is development.
Right.
You know, this ignorance, you know, but we can't let them. We must come to criticize. For example, you know the sugar problem is linked to the maize problem. Sugar problem, when sugar, I went to school with sugar money and we didn't have too much of it, but my mom grew sugar cane. But it was just going to a jaggery. You know, when it was doing well, we didn't mind maize importation because we could get money from sugar and buy imported maize. Now you have a scenario where somebody, out of ignorance, has allowed sugar factories to import sugar.
Right.
Now, you have another scenario where you have allowed millers to import maize. Why would I want to bother with petty farmers if I can import containers of maize? Imagine what they were charging government to import. 4,000 shillings a bag, and they want to pay farmers here in the North Rift under 1,000, under 2,000 bob. What are you telling Kenyans?
Dr. Halwale, the Big Four, food security. Optimistic?
Joko is talking, I think, with a little bit of anger when he says he doesn't know the Big Four.
I don't.
It reminds me my old relationship with his group. they don't think about development. They just think about governance. And therefore, very quickly, how do we amend the constitution? Not once, not twice, but many times, so that it paves way for some of us to get to the top. Your anger about demolishing structures in Kisumu, why are you angry? I mean, because I know some people very close to you who allowed themselves to encroach on Kenya Railway land in Kisumu, and now that those people close to you, their properties being brought down, and they are sending you to be very angry on
So you're saying it's personal?
It is personal. To upgrade the port in Kisumu has got serious returns in revenue, in jobs. You know it. Why would you want to fight it?
Okay, Dr.
But more importantly, more importantly,
but he has to say, you must give me right.
You have the right of
You're not the one to give me time.
But on food security specifically?
On food security, more importantly, that is an area where I saw President Uhuru was very clear-minded. When they thought about the issue of Kulalu Kulana, they were thinking in the right direction. Unfortunately, they have become weak at the knees simply because of corruption. They should have fixed the corruption that was making it leak in Kulalu Kulana so that the project would go on.
Right.
Yeah.
So well thought out, but corruption sipped in.
Yeah, that's what they should deal with.
Okay. Honorable.
No,
No,
no.
anger is coming from a personal
No,
space.
even now, my restaurant was demolished. I'm not angry. I am not angry at anything. But Bonnie must know that the port of Mombasa is the second largest entry port in Africa after the port of Durban. Tell me one Mijikenda who is rich because of port of Mombasa. You know, some things we are saying, like now, because of SGR, Mombasa since the beginning of the year has lost 17 billion shillings. There is no IDF existing in Mombasa anymore. You're telling us we'll clear our goods from Naivasha, but we will get our goods from Naivasha, but the clearance will be done in Nairobi. And you are killing Mombasa. You know, Bonnie, I want to just repeat that buildings are not development. In fact, I had a very senior person from Nyanza saying they want to make Kisumu look like London or New York. Those buildings you see in New York, and I'm sure you have been severally, are built by private sector people. The government only provides policy. And Kunana Gulalu should never have been before we address the farmer problems in North Rift, if we wanted food to be on our tables.
Gabriel, on this one, the big four in food security.
As we are addressing the farmers, by the way, let me tell you, I have so much faith, and I still continue having faith in the big four. Oh, yeah, they are a game changer.
Do you think it will be delivered by the time he leaves?
Let me tell you, I think we can make a significant footprint on the big four, because some have already started being rolled out. When you look at the food security that you're talking about, it is actually quite achievable. Everything within the big four, it's quite achievable. And you see, back then, a few years ago, the issue was that many governors had not bought into the big four agenda. So many did not even want to sit down and discuss anything big four. But now they've started understanding. When you talk about universal health care, when you talk about housing, actually these are issues that the country is grappling with. All right? When you look at the issue, I know it's not even part of the big four, but a key enabler, which is education. Look at how far we've come from education. The first time Kibaki told us, and you know, I'm reminded of what my friend Senior Jakoyo has just said about, you know, Kibaki continues to remain as one of the key leaders in this country. Nobody thought that we would have free primary education. In fact, people are like, what do you mean? Where will the money come from? And Kibaki said, we will find money. All right? So the issue is not negating what somebody thinks or the vision that he carries. Is you enjoining him to see the deliverables. Doability is key here. Right. So even as Kibaki told us we can do it, many people did not see how that could be done, but it was done. So the big four, you know, suffers the very same teething issues. When you look at the healthcare that I was just telling you about, this is not an Uhuru issue alone. It's not a Ruto issue. This one goes on to show that that child from where Daktari comes from in Ikolomani is able to access quality, not just healthcare, but quality healthcare. Same thing, that child who is in Bondo. Same thing with that child who is in somewhere in Karatina. That is that is the epithet of the big four. When you talk about the food security that you're talking about, we're not talking about the people who grow food. We're talking about feeding every person. I traveled to China some time back. And Daktari, I was shocked when somebody told me that what China is doing, they are going to ensure by next year, 2020, every Chinaman will be fed everywhere in the world. They'll be fed. And it's not just the food that me and you know. No, it's nutritious food. Food that will be able to make a child in class concentrate. How are they doing it? It's the power of doability. So, you know, sometimes I run away when somebody tells me, oh, big four cannot be achieved. It can be achieved. And it actually is a game changer. When you look at it and you read how this, even if we are going to push the envelope a little bit and say, you know, the time is actually catching up on President Uhuru. You know, I would expect the person who comes in readies themselves to see the Big Four as a game changer in this country. Okay. And I can tell you, Jeff, it is doable.
Okay. In fact, what you should be saying, as you put it so correctly, is that it must be achieved.
Yes.
Because speaking as a medical expert, I know that a few years ago, insurance, national insurance, could only pay for the bed.
Exactly.
But there's been serious thinking, and today, because of your card, you pay only 500 shillings per month. That card will pay for your bed, will pay for medication,
drugs,
will pay for some of the tests. In fact, that is the way to go. Jacoy, I beg you, good things are happening in health. Only that we could do with more.
Okay.
Right.
So at least we can see that they have confidence.
Jeff, they can't get away with it.
Jacoy still not
That's the problem.
You know, Mutuma.
Yes.
You can achieve, but you must plan. I can tell you, as a businessman, if you don't plan, you must fail. There's no way the government can take away this spirit of free enterprise and the government goes to borrow money to build houses. Government cannot build houses for people in a capitalist society. What happens to Njenga or Otieno who wants to do construction? You know, you cannot achieve if the people who come here don't transfer knowledge. You bring this Chinese here to build SGR without a Kenyan engineer to work there and remain with knowledge. You can't achieve. Okay. Even what is saying about health, it is not true. In February, I was in hospital. I pay NHI. They only paid 6,000 shillings. They pay less money than I pay them per month.
You
but the corruption there.
Nairobi Hospital.
The but so why should they pay less? Why should insurance pay less? You know, as a member of parliament, and Boni is still a politician, we get these phone calls. Those things are not working for our people. Let us discuss them. And who said that one or two politicians should decide for 40 million Kenyans? Discuss, don't kill parliament, don't kill assemblies. Let us hear the views of Kenyans. Even our constitution calls for it. What we are being treated to today is something we shall live to regret. You know, this handshake is the best thing we thought happened to Kenya. But there's no proper discourse in the assemblies, Senate, national, and the county assemblies. Because everybody has taken sides and everybody is fearful. It's not like when me and him were in parliament and President Kibaki was there.
But
Senior, I think
cross the bridges.
Jeff, Senior, I think, Senior, when you compare you and somebody in Mashinani, the kind of lifestyle, I think you'll be doing them a disservice. And I'm giving you a scenario that I know. And actually, I know that Terry will agree with me on this one. A scenario I know, not something that I heard from somewhere. No, something that I know. I've heard this person who used to travel to Nairobi for dialysis. And he would do this twice a week, all right? And he would live with family when he comes here. It was taking a toll. Today, the man does not even travel 4 kilometers, all right? It's all sorted at a very fair cost. So when he compares apples to apples, the amount of money he used to spend on his journey, and he's able to now get this service in Mashinani for less than 2,000. To him, it's a world of a difference. So you cannot say in matters health, it's not working. See, the thing that we've done is to solve everything, even the good. By the way, there are so many things happening in this country that most people who have always been negative will not accept. But the truth is, things are changing. Albeit the fact not at the high trajectory that we expected, but they are definitely changing. Okay. That's why I keep saying, Jeff, we may not be where we want to be, but definitely we are not where we were.
We're going to take a break shortly, but before we do that, a comment just before we go into the break, something that Honorable Midio had raised in terms of one of the reasons why the handshake was done was so as to deliver the Big Four agenda and development in the country. But from where he stands, he says that now the discourse isn't happening, and even the faults within probably the Big Four agenda aren't being, being pointed out. Dr.
What's wrong with him? How can they expect that we apply something called handshake, set aside the constitution, and start using the handshake? If you wanted to have handshake run the country, then amend the constitution to provide for handshake. When you go around telling people that Raila is part of government, under what constitution do you find somebody who lost an election being part of the executive? So please put the handshake into the constitution, then use it to run the country. But as far as I'm concerned, and as far as
he's saying exactly what I was saying.
Can you calm down? You must keep As far as many Kenyans are concerned, we want to uphold and respect the constitution. And since it provides that the executive will be run by the president and his deputy, that is what it is now. So this masquerading and all manner of things by the former prime minister should be discouraged by people who are close to him like you.
Yes, but Jeff, first of all,
yes,
it is good that you may come from somewhere where there's a dialysis machine. Yes. I come from Siaya County, there's none. Kisumu County, there's none. We go to Eldoret. So that you know. FYI. So that it is not the 2,000 you're talking about.
But the county,
in that side of the world
had received the machine.
Let me tell you, those counties, I'm surprised Bonnie is now supporting them. The people who clamored, the people who clamored, who are clamoring for devolution,
yes,
those counties are the ones which are failed.
The counties,
where the politicians, where politicians who really were for devolution, and because of this handshake, they can't even criticize their governors. So the point I'm trying to say, and now they cannot. I mean, tell me, Coast Province, Northeastern, Nyanza, Western, the counties have failed, and tell me if there's a governor from that part of the world even being chased around for corruption. You understand? But Bonnie, the point I was trying to make is that, you know, the handshake was never there 3 years ago. Now that it is here, it should have been properly politicized so we can understand its intentions.
Okay.
What it has done is that the politicians, both in Uhuru's camps and in Raila camps, are not allowed to have political discourse. Everything is secret. Like people talk, like I saw Maina Commander talking about, let us wait for BBI. There's nothing in this country called BBI. You understand? When you want to talk, and that is where therein lies, let us be honest with Kenyans, therein lies the rotten apple. Because when politicians are quiet and they're paid, who is to speak for Kenyans?
Okay, let's take a break at that particular point in time. And that poignant question asked, because if they're quiet, who shouts for the rest of the citizenry? We'll pick up with that discussion right there. Also, we'll pick up on that particular point as far as the handshake is concerned in Kibra politics and how the two are becoming a very grey area as far as that's concerned. Keep your tweets coming in at K24 TV. This, of course, is a newspaper review.